Okay, so I decided to open a Shopify store. The plan looked embarrassingly simple. I would find a product, build a clean website, run a few ads, and start collecting orders while I slept. I imagined waking up to one notification after another. You made a sale. Then I would leave my job and run the business from my laptop. But before I received my first order, I had already spent nearly $14,000, and the store was not even properly open yet. A Shopify store may exist online, but the money you can lose is very real. My name is Jake, and when I started, I thought Shopify was the business. It is not. Shopify is just the building where the business lives. It gives me a website, checkout system, and tools to process orders. But it does not bring customers, ship packages, or guarantee profit. At first, I believed I could launch cheaply. I paid for the Shopify subscription and bought a domain. Then I realized the free theme made my store look like thousands of other stores, so I paid for a premium design. Then I needed photos, a logo, email software, paid apps, and inventory tracking. None of these expenses looked dangerous alone. $15 here, $49 there. But that is how online businesses quietly become expensive. Not through one giant payment, through 20 small payments that all feel necessary. Then came the product itself. I had decided to sell premium travel backpacks. My supplier required a minimum order of 300 units. Each backpack cost me $42 to manufacture and deliver. That meant I had to spend $12,600 on inventory before I knew whether strangers would actually buy it. I did not think of that money as an expense. I thought of it as an investment. But inventory is only an investment if someone eventually buys it. Until then, it is cash trapped inside a product. 300 backpacks in boxes do not pay bills. They just sit there. Still, I was confident. I planned to sell each backpack for $129. The math looked incredible. If I sold all 300 units, the store would generate $38,700 in revenue. My inventory had cost $12,600, so in my head, I was going to make more than $26,000. But revenue is not profit, and the distance between those two numbers was about to become the entire story of my business. Before one backpack reached a customer, I still had to pay for packaging, fees, shipping, returns, software, taxes, and the most expensive part, convincing someone to visit my website. They think the product is the business. But the real business is customer acquisition. I could have the best backpack in the world, but if nobody knew my store existed, I did not have a business. I had a private collection of expensive backpacks. So I opened an advertising account and prepared my first campaign. I created a polished video showing the backpack moving through an airport. Then I set the budget, $300 for the first week. But I told myself that spending money was necessary to make money. The advertisement started running. People clicked. 10 visitors became 200. Real people were entering my store. I kept refreshing the dashboard. 300 visitors, 400 visitors, 500 visitors, and 0 sales. That was the moment I understood the second lesson. Traffic is not revenue. Attention is not demand. And a busy website can still be a completely unprofitable business. By the end of the campaign, I had spent $300 to attract 1,000 visitors. Only 2 bought a backpack. My revenue was $258. I had spent $300 on advertising to generate $258 in sales. And that was before paying for the products, packaging, shipping, and transaction fees. I had not made $258. I had lost money. There were visitors. There were clicks. There were sales notifications. From the outside, my Shopify store was alive. Financially, it was bleeding, and I was only 1 week into the business. The next morning, I opened a spreadsheet and tried to understand what had happened. 2 customers had paid me $129 each. That looked like $258 in revenue, but each backpack cost me $42. Shipping cost another $9.50 per order. Packaging added $2. Payment processing took a percentage of every sale. Then there was advertising. Now, when I divided my $300 campaign by the 2 customers it produced, I had paid $150 to acquire each buyer. That number was bigger than the price of the product. I was selling a $129 backpack, but spending $150 just to convince someone to buy it. Before product cost, before shipping, before returns, my first 2 sales had not moved me closer to profit. They had made the loss official. I started studying other Shopify stores and noticed 2 different business models. The first sold cheap products, phone accessories, kitchen gadgets, and small beauty items. The profit on one order was small, so the owners depended on volume. If they earned only $5 per order, they needed hundreds of monthly orders. The second model sold premium products. These stores survived with fewer orders because each sale created more gross profit. But premium customers expected better photography, packaging, support, and trust. I thought I had chosen the premium model because my backpack cost $129, but a high price alone does not create a premium brand. I had a premium price attached to a name nobody recognized. That was my third lesson. Customers do not pay more because I need a higher margin. They pay more when they believe the product and the experience are worth more. My website looked clean, but it did not answer the customer's questions. Why should I trust this store? What if the backpack arrives damaged? Why not buy a cheaper one elsewhere? I knew the supplier and had tested the product. The customer knew none of that. They saw an unfamiliar website asking for $129, so I changed the product page. I added close-up photos, measurements, delivery estimates, a return policy, and a packing video. I added customer support chat, even though I answered every message myself. I replaced vague claims with practical details. Then I launched a second advertising campaign. This time, I spent another $500. Then I calculated the full cost. The 10 backpacks cost me $420. Shipping cost $95. Packaging cost $20. Processing fees took another piece. Advertising had cost $500. After everything, I had made almost nothing. Then one customer requested a return. The backpack was not defective. They simply did not like the color. I refunded the $129, but I did not recover the advertising cost. I also paid for return shipping. When the backpack came back, the packaging was damaged, so I could not sell it again as new. One return erased the tiny profit from several successful orders. That was the first major twist. Improving sales did not automatically improve the business. My contribution margin. After product cost, shipping, packaging, and processing fees, I had roughly $71 left before advertising. The first idea was an upsell. After someone added a backpack to the cart, I offered a matching packing organizer for $29. The organizer cost me only $9. That meant one add-on could create $20 in extra gross profit before fees. If 100 people bought a backpack and 15 added the organizer, that produced another $435 in revenue. More importantly, I did not have to pay for 15 new customers. They were already on the website. Then I added a second offer after checkout, a luggage tag for $15. For the first time, I saw how strong stores increased revenue without increasing traffic. They did not only ask, how do we get more customers? They also asked, how do we make each customer worth more? That number was called average order value. My original average order value was $129. After adding the organizer and luggage tag, it moved closer to $140. That difference gave me more room to pay for advertising. Every extra offer created new inventory, packaging, questions, and another item that could arrive damaged. More revenue also created more complexity. So I focused on something even more valuable: getting existing customers to return. I started collecting email addresses from buyers and visitors. I sent care instructions, travel tips, product updates, and occasional offers. I had already paid to attract those people. Now I could reach them again without paying for every click. 1 month later, I released a smaller day pack. I emailed my previous customers first. Within 24 hours, 32 people bought it. That campaign generated more than $2,500 in revenue with almost no advertising cost. It felt like I had finally discovered the secret. The first sale paid to acquire the customer. The second sale created the real profit. That was the second major twist. A Shopify store is not always won on the first order. Sometimes the first order only buys the relationship. The business becomes valuable when customers return, buy more, and recommend the brand. But repeat sales work only if the first experience is good. A late package, confusing return policy, or a poor product can destroy that relationship before it begins. And that is what happened next. My supplier delivered a new batch 2 weeks late. I had already sold part of that inventory through pre-orders. Customers expected their packages before a holiday weekend. Instead, they received delay emails. Some were patient, others demanded refunds. A few posted angry comments under my advertisements. Suddenly, the same ads that brought customers were displaying complaints to new visitors. My conversion rate dropped. My refund requests increased. And I spent hours answering messages instead of improving the store. Still, the sales dashboard showed a strong month. Revenue was up. Orders were up. My email campaign had worked. But my bank balance was moving in the opposite direction. I had paid the supplier before receiving the inventory. I had paid for advertising before customers purchased. I had paid for packaging before shipping orders. And the payment processor did not send every sale to my bank immediately. Some money was delayed. Some was held in reserve because the store was new and refunds had increased. On paper, the month looked profitable. In reality, I was running out of cash. That was when I learned the difference between profit and cash flow. Profit told me whether the business model could work. Cash flow told me whether I would survive long enough to prove it, not sales. The cash problem forced me to slow down. Until that moment, I had treated every available dollar as fuel for growth. If the store made money, I bought more inventory. If an advertisement performed well, I increased the budget. If customers wanted faster delivery, I paid for a better shipping service. But I had no reserve. One bad week could freeze the entire business. So I created a simple rule. Before spending on expansion, I needed 3 months of expenses, refunds, supplier payments, and advertising. The reserve felt unproductive, but it gave the store something new. Time. If advertising costs increased, I could test new campaigns instead of panicking. If a shipment was delayed, I could refund customers without missing another payment. If sales slowed, I could keep operating while I worked out why. Reserve cash did not make the store grow faster. It stopped one problem from killing it. Advertising had become less predictable. 1 week, I spent $1,000 and generated nearly $4,000 in sales. The next week, I used almost the same videos, audience, and website, but the results collapsed. Clicks became more expensive. Visitors stopped buying. Competitors copied the product and offered lower prices. A reliable campaign suddenly behaved like a gamble. Then I saw the deeper problem. I did not control the traffic. The platform controlled the auction, and I was bidding against other stores for the same customers. When more advertisers entered the market, the price of attention rose. If my conversion rate stayed the same while click costs increased, my profit disappeared. For example, suppose 1 in every 50 visitors bought a backpack. If each visitor cost me $1.20, I paid $60 to acquire one customer. That was close to the maximum I could afford. But if the cost per visitor rose to $1.80, the same customer now cost $90. Nothing about my product changed. Well, no, nothing about the selling price changed. Yet the business moved from profitable to unprofitable because attention became more expensive. That was when I stopped thinking of advertising as a tap I could turn on whenever I wanted more sales. It was a market, and the price moved. I started diversifying where customers came from. I wrote travel guides for search traffic. I posted product demonstrations on social media. I asked satisfied customers to share photos. I built an email list and created a referral reward. They grew more slowly than ads, but made the business less fragile. Then growth created a new problem. Orders increased faster than I could handle them. I packed every backpack myself. I printed labels at night, answered support messages in the morning, and checked advertising between everything else. That worked at 10 orders a week. It did not work at 100. I began making mistakes. The wrong color went to one customer. Another package received the wrong address. A support email sat unanswered for 3 days. Every mistake created refunds, reshipping costs, angry messages, and lost trust. So I hired help. That meant wages, training, software, and storage. The store was becoming larger, but it was also becoming more expensive to operate. This was another expectation reversal. Growth did not remove pressure. It changed the type of pressure. When the store was small, I worried about getting enough sales. When it grew, I worried about fulfilling them without destroying the customer experience. A store can fail because nobody buys. It can also fail because too many people buy before the system is ready. That was the moment I understood that scaling was not simply doing more of what already worked. Scaling meant building a business capable of surviving more volume, more complaints, more inventory, more employees, and more money moving through the system. The sales graph was only the visible part. Underneath it, every order was testing whether the structure could hold. Each day, once the store could handle more orders, I assumed the hardest part was over. I was wrong. A new competitor appeared with a backpack that looked almost identical to mine. Their price was $99. Mine was $129. I told myself customers would notice my better materials, packaging, and support, but most visitors compared the number beside the buy button. My conversion rate fell. So I did what frightened business owners often do. I discounted. I reduced the price to $99 and added free shipping. Orders jumped almost immediately. The dashboard looked alive again. Revenue rose. The advertisement started performing better. Then I checked the margin. At $129, I had roughly $71 left before advertising and overhead. At $99 with free shipping, that cushion almost disappeared. I had gained customers by giving away the money I needed to serve them. That was the discount trap. Lower prices can increase sales while making the business weaker. The customer sees a bargain, but the spreadsheet sees whether the order is worth fulfilling. The competitor might have cheaper materials, lower shipping costs, or outside funding. They might even be losing money deliberately to grow faster. If I copied their price without understanding their economics, I was letting another company decide whether I survived. So I restored the original price and changed the offer instead. I included the luggage tag. I extended the warranty. I made the return process clearer. I showed how the backpack performed after months of use. The goal was not to become the cheapest store. It was to make the value easier to understand. Some customers still chose the cheaper option. A sale that creates a loss is not a customer I can afford to win. The next risk was sitting in my storage room. Inventory. I had learned that running out of stock was bad. Now I discovered that ordering too much could be worse. One of my colors had sold quickly for 3 months, so I ordered 500 more units. By the time they arrived, customer interest had shifted. A new style was trending. My best-selling color stopped moving. Nearly $21,000 was trapped in boxes. The supplier had already been paid. The storage company still charged me every month. And the longer the products sat there, the more likely I would need to discount them. That inventory appeared as an asset in my records, but it did not feel like an asset. It felt like frozen cash. I tried bundles. I tried limited time offers. I sent emails. I paid influencers. Eventually, I accepted a painful truth. The original profit I expected from that inventory no longer existed. My choice was not between selling at full price and selling at a discount. My choice was between recovering part of the cash now or holding the products until they became even harder to sell. So I cleared the remaining stock at a low margin. The campaign produced impressive revenue. It also produced almost no profit. From the outside, it looked like one of my biggest sales months. Inside the business, it was a rescue operation. That was another lesson Shopify dashboards do not explain. Revenue can come from strength. It can also come from desperation. The number alone does not tell you which one you are seeing. After that, I changed how I ordered inventory. I placed smaller orders more often. The unit cost was slightly higher, but the risk was lower. I tracked which products sold without discounts. I watched return rates by color and size. I stopped treating every spike in demand as permanent. And I kept more cash outside the warehouse. It made the business look less aggressive, but it made the business more difficult to kill. By then, I no longer measured success by the number of orders arriving each morning. I measured it by what remained after the orders were fulfilled, the customers were satisfied, the refunds were paid, and enough cash was still available to operate tomorrow. Now.